our
Did we
latest
do
attempt
it?
at
Bitches, did
doing
we do
this.
it?
I think maybe we did it. But
Okay.
people, if anyone's watching, and I don't think anyone is yet,
No.
but if and when you do, give us a little shout out, not shout out, but give us a little information in the chat thing. There's like live chat, and just tell us like, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Can you see us?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
everything working okay?
Do we look cute?
I mean,
Should we be wearing masks? Is that really what we should be doing right now? That's
you're supposed to wear masks when you're like out of the house,
yeah,
but
and
I think
it was a joke.
well, I take it very seriously. And today I spent a lot of time on trying to create homemade masks because,
Everybody's doing it.
right?
Everybody's
It's
making
the
masks.
thing. It's the thing. And so I don't really sew, though I do have a sewing machine that in like 8 years of owning it, I've not
Wait,
yet learned how to use it. What?
Are you getting egg whites so
Yeah.
that you can make something fizzy? Are you making a live cocktail?
I am. I just placed egg white in my shaker.
Okay.
And I'm going to now shake, and we'll see how this goes. But yeah, I should get a glass to put it in. Glass is a generous word. It's plastic. But yes, I'm making a Negroni sour.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's basically a Negroni with a little bit of lemon juice, and you're supposed to put a little bit of sugar, like in a sour, and an egg white. But I don't like things too sweet, so I didn't put any sugar. I figured a little extra sweet vermouth would do the trick. And I gotta shake
Going
it
in
really
and out
good.
of frame because I'm looking for my booze.
Oh, she forgot her booze. So
I didn't forget my booze. I keep it in the studio
she
now.
neglected. Oh, what? Oh yeah, you're having your fancy bourbon. Did you steal that from your husband's high-end liquor cabinet?
That bourbon isn't fucking fancy enough for him.
I kind of thought so.
To him, Knob Creek is super basic bourbon.
He's kind of right.
Don't support that. Don't support that madman.
He has good taste in whiskey, and I have to support that.
He has good taste in whiskey and women.
And that definitely the latter, no question. So, we should talk about what we're going to talk about today because, boy, so there's so much going on. In our recent episode that we just posted today, we were looking at how the GOP specifically really has been responding to this whole crisis situation and observing and sort of analyzing how they seem to have this predetermined repertoire of ways to approach things. They have their repertoire. I mean, everybody does, right? Every political party does. But in the GOP, they've been engaged on this long project of developing theirs. And I think in the last 4.5 years, they've really settled on a culture. Oh, look, we have a comment. What's the best cocktail for the apocalypse? Asks MLS analyst who's not in the room over there. I think he already knows the answer to that. He's having a variation on the Negroni, a mezcal Negroni, but with dry vermouth instead of sweet vermouth. So it's mezcal, Campari, and dry vermouth, which is a cardinal or cardinale. We don't know how you pronounce it. We've only seen it written. But it's very good. I'm getting ready to have my sour. It didn't get as nice and, foamy.
Frothy.
It didn't get as frothy and foamy as I would have liked because my ice was mostly melted. But that's okay.
So here's the thing.
But wait.
Yes.
The people must see the cocktail.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Clink. We've never gotten to really.
I know.
Clink,
right?
clink.
Not on the show, anyway.
So here's the thing.
I like it.
So yeah, the GOP has settled on this really simple playbook, and I think it's the Mitch McConnell never compromise, never admit you're wrong. You're a cuck if you do anything that like
Yeah.
never, no, not at all.
Like the point is that they have their approach to things that they've settled upon, and their playbook, and it has proved to be inadequate to the current situation. You could say that, and not even bringing up like the policy side of things and how they are actually responding to a serious crisis situation, a serious disaster.
Right.
Just
right.
in terms of performance,
well, in terms of performance, and in terms of like a rhetorical dance.
Yes.
Like you do this rhetorical dance, and they've been settled on the rhetorical dance of like wall, no.
Yeah.
Well, but that's, and like it doesn't, the virus don't care, honey badger don't care.
Right.
It's like
right.
You know?
Yes, and it goes to how they don't have a coherent ideology or set of values or anything that really ties them together as a party. Certainly not an actual platform. No. They're not a party. They're an identity group. They're a white identity group.
Yeah.
They're an old white people identity group. And
yeah.
So not having any actual cultural ties and definitely not having ideological ties, they define themselves as a group by being against whatever liberals are for. They're against the left wing. They're against socialism. They're against liberals, whatever terminology.
Feminists.
Yes, feminists, social justice warriors. Like it all, Black Lives Matter. It all fits in that basket of what they are not. And that's been working out for them pretty fine, I guess. But it was so interesting to see them flail through trying to use that approach to respond to the situation of a pandemic. Where liberals are saying, this is bad, we are worried, and so their default response has to be to disagree.
Yes.
To disagree with that. Not only to disagree, but as we noted, to sort of deride and sneer at liberals for even caring about it.
Yes.
And so what we've actually seen just this week has been even further evolution of that.
With the weird sort of fake capitulation, but we're not capitulating really kind of thing that they're doing. Their slow realization that as Governor Brian Kemp was
my
just
God.
This can be spread and you could be asymptomatic. Like, oh, you think?
Yeah. So that was actually today. Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, who stole the election from Stacey Abrams, as you may recall, said that he had just found out the day before that people who are asymptomatic can communicate.
Carry COVID and
people
spread COVID-19.
Can spread the disease. He found that out yesterday.
Yeah.
The CDC's main campus is in Atlanta. It's probably like a couple of miles from wherever he lives and works. But he didn't realize.
No, honey.
Are you getting interrupted by a small person?
Yeah. What do you need?
Live.
This is my son.
Oh, hi. That was adorable.
Yeah, I'm looking for it, buddy. And I can't find it.
We're going to make him a star.
We are going to make him a star.
Oh. That's very sweet. Look at Maya being all maternal and tender. I love that.
Excuse me.
We need to lay down some ground rules, I think.
Are you judging my parenting, bitch?
No, I'm judging your podcasting.
Well, it's a pandemic, people.
Yeah,
Don't
right?
fucking judge me.
It's the end of the world. We could do what the fuck we want.
Right.
So the other thing that was interesting that I wanted to talk about is Trump's 180-degree shift from every day getting on TV, doing the coronavirus task force press briefing,
Yeah.
and talking
Yeah.
about how great he's doing and everything's fine, and just making shit up about cures, making shit up about ventilators, making shit up about numbers of people, whatever it is. He's just trying to make himself look good, trying to sound good. And then he comes out this week with, 250,000 people are going to die.
And that's us doing a great job.
Yeah, yeah. So he clearly has gone with the tactic of trying to move the goalposts and set the bar for himself as low as he can, so that if 120,000 people die, he can claim that he did a good job, because that was on the low end of the estimate he gave.
Right.
But what on earth changed that would get him to accept that that's what he had to do?
So I think I said this on this week's episode, that the thing about this virus, and I've just been thinking about it all the time, is that the virus isn't some well-spoken rhetorical genius. It isn't Elizabeth Warren. It isn't a political expert.
Right.
The virus is as kind of dumb and relentlessly replicating as Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And it's like he's met his match. Like the virus is even more mindless than him. It cares even less for it wants to replicate and infect, and it doesn't give a shit. And I feel like you're finally seeing the GOP, because no Democrat could do what the Republicans, the amount of burning down the House that would have to happen. Right. And the virus that's it. It's like an out of control fire.
The virus is the troll. It's a better troll than they are.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. 100%.
The essence of trolling being
that's it.
You are provoking someone who cares, and you don't care. Well, nobody cares less about anything than a fucking virus.
Absolutely.
It has no consciousness or intention. It's just gonna do what it's gonna do. Yeah. And it's the only entity that could possibly be more ruthless than Mitch McConnell.
That's it. That's it. That's it. And I feel like there's a way that, particularly the bloodbath that is about to happen in Florida, which only put a shelter in place in 2 days ago, and their shelter in place doesn't include houses of worship. They're keeping churches and synagogues and houses of worship as necessary, as essential sort of gatherings or essential businesses. And they have a population that is hugely elderly.
Yeah.
And in 3 weeks, it's going to be worse than New York. I mean, it's going to be so bad. And I feel like Mississippi and Louisiana's already looking pretty bad. Mississippi, the governor was like, we're not going to shut down. We're not Chinese. Yeah. It's like, all right, dude, you want to see what happens in 3 weeks? And meanwhile, in San Francisco, which put a shelter in place first, the mayor was like, did it before anybody else. They've had 7 deaths.
Yeah.
Like up to this moment. And LA has the same number of deaths today that it did yesterday. And it's like,
we understand the principles. We understand the basics of the science. I mean, we're no Dr. Anthony Fauci's here, but we get the gist.
Yeah.
It's just been fascinating to see how, like, the GOP, the whole right-wing establishment, the media apparatus and everything, they have worked so hard to discount the entire idea of facts existing.
Yes.
And it all goes to this idea of defining themselves around who their enemies are, as opposed to having some actual agenda, and their identities being tied up in that. And when your identity is tied up in something, it's really easy to have confirmation bias. You don't want to hear that your identity is based on something flimsy, much less, immoral or unethical.
Oh, I don't think white supremacy is flimsy. White supremacy is, and actually when we're talking about how like the GOP is a party of like old white people, so I just left my, residency in Charlotte. All my stuff is still there, by the way. Like there is laundry in the dryer of my apartment, like all my shit's there. And I haven't been back. And in Charlotte for the past 2 weeks, people are throwing COVID parties. And I've been hearing that it's especially young white men who've been kind of like, like I know, like they've had to, yeah. And so Charlotte, it's not going to be good.
This is the really kind of worst case scenario result. Maybe not worst case scenario, but it's a very negative possible outcome of these years and years of the right-wing media, especially creating this alternate reality for their viewers. And like that was the genius of the evil genius of Fox News and the sort of unwitting genius of Donald Trump is giving everyone permission to just indulge their confirmation biases and either only believe what they want to believe or to just believe nothing. It's all nonsense, And by creating that atmosphere of pick and choose your facts, when you're confronted with something that, it's not abstract, it's not in the realm of ideas and principles, it's not theoretical, it's just there. It's a virus and it's killing people. And they're still in that default mode. They're still playing by that playbook of choosing not to believe it. You could choose not to believe climate change because that's a little bit distant, a little less than it used to be, but and as it gets closer, they concede more and more. It used to be that climate change wasn't happening. Now it's happening, but it's not man-made.
Yeah. But I also think that that's one of the things that's interesting about science is I kind of feel like, I don't know about you, and I don't know about our listeners, but I've definitely been having moments of rage. I've been pretty good. I live a pretty nice life, even under quarantine. I'm eating well. Our pantry's stocked. I have a little childcare during the week.
Right.
I'm cool. But every once, and I think that I have to stay in a certain kind of level of denial or not read the news too much because I get so angry. So when I have my rage moments, like when I think that, as we discussed last week, that Senator Loeffler and Richard Burr should be publicly hung.
And you feel driven to bake.
And I feel the baking has slowed down or whatever. The baking has calmed down. The rage though, this week, like today, all of a sudden I was like, if you voted for Trump, you don't get a ventilator. Like, if you don't believe in science, you don't get to take Advil. Like, you don't believe the CDC, you don't believe Dr. Fauci. Like, you don't get to have anything. You don't get to have chemo. You don't get to have an Advil. You get nothing. You get to that was my moment of peak. That was my sort of surge of anger today.
Oh, you should have tweeted that.
That would have been great.
That's good. You still should. You still should do that. If you don't accept the reality of this, that's fine. You don't get a ventilator.
You don't get a ventilator. Yeah. If you voted for Trump, you don't get a ventilator. That's it. That's it. There'll be enough ventilators left.
I think that's fair. Yeah. I think that's a really great solution to the shortage of ventilators.
Yeah. And if you don't believe in science, then you don't get to have anything that the FDA has made possible for us, like by testing the simplest sort of like Allegra. You don't get any allergy medication, nothing. You don't get anything. You have a heart attack, you just have to die.
They don't think that they don't believe in science, though. They just pick and choose what science they want to believe in, like every other thing. They pick and choose what realities they want to believe in. And also, we don't do that, Maya. When they go low, we go high. No, I'm kidding. But they we don't do that, right? We will give everybody the fucking check for $1,200. We'll give everybody will get whatever they will get. They'll get their Medicare or their Medicaid
or their public schools.
Their
I mean,
public
this is
schools,
one thing that we didn't talk about yet, which is like all of a sudden people are like, oh, grocery workers and the people picking our fucking lettuce and teachers are important, and our society can't run without them. Like, oh, you think? Like, how do you think that vegetable gets to your fucking house, my friend?
I know. My favorite, one of my favorite tweets that I've seen since this started was actually pretty early on. It was like several weeks ago. Someone posted a screenshot of I think it was a Facebook post from a Google employee complaining that working from home, he had to make his own coffee. And yeah, and he was just, it went on about all of the sort of everyday things. He had to stop working and go make himself lunch that was not provided for him. And the person who tweeted it, I feel bad now because I should have pulled up the tweet and give them credit. But they said something like, he's so close to recognizing the value of invisible labor around him, but he's just not there.
So it's like, yeah, almost there. And I feel like that's the other thing is these teachers. Like, my son has a teacher who's very much like master teacher, teacher's teacher, and she like
you said
makes
she's
software.
A good one.
Yeah, she's like, and so she's as prepped as you're gonna get. We have tons of teachers who've been sitting here trying to learn this stuff. You have preschool teachers figuring out Zoom so that they can see their kids.
Has there been another preschool Zoom session since we
yes,
last
I'll post. There have been multiple preschool Zoom sessions,
Can we
and there was even
take a quick moment for you to tell us a little bit about what the preschool Zoom meetings are like.
So, first of all, and I'm sure I've described this to our listeners before. So we send our child to basically the Pete Seeger socialist kibbutz love commune.
Right.
Okay. And they have been like, the Twitter account Los Feliz Daycare.
No, but sounds like I should.
Oh my God. Hours that will entertain you for all of tomorrow. I promise.
Okay,
this guy's been doing it for years. But that's basically where we send our kid. Like, rock stars send their kids there, but only like really cool, crunchy rock stars. Anyway, because it's not the West Side. Fuck that. So they've been organizing multiple daily Zooms where there's like an Instagram live. The director of the preschool reads a bedtime story every night. They have class meetings for each of the classes. One of the teachers does a music hour at lunch every day. And then we all have Shabbat together on Fridays.
Oh, really?
And so I will post a picture of Zoom Shabbat. But
do the preschoolers, they're focused on the screen? Are they there?
Even if they're out, like, Paz immediately gets a book and shows it to the screen.
Oh,
she has things she wants to show. When a story starts and it's story time, she sits down. They've been making all of these channels of YouTube videos of activities, and like Paz has a crush. Paz has her first crush. Paz is almost 4. She's going to be 4 in a month. There is a new teacher who's kind of like soft butch, short hair, and Paz is in love. She's like, I'm going to marry her. She has hair like a boy, but she's a girl. Like, it's not subtle what's happening right now. There is some serious, and it's love. Like, we've never seen this kind of like crush. So like Nancy, her name is Nancy, we should bleep that out, did a video of like an activity that's related to the book Blueberries for Sal, where you color in these blueberries and you cut them out and you put them in a jar. And the next day we showed it to her, and the next day she was like, she wanted to do it, and she remembered that the teacher said that sometimes blueberries are pink, and like, yeah, like
So
they don't,
she's there, she's engaged, and
I think they all are. They don't play with each other
right.
because they're still in that transition from parallel play where kids play next to each other to playing with each other.
Uh-huh.
But there's a real engagement, and they miss their friends and teachers, and they like to see them.
That's really interesting because what I would have pictured is a Zoom, like I'm picturing it on, the gallery
Mhm.
mode where you're seeing all these little kids and each one's just doing their own thing because
No,
they're
they come
three.
in and out. They're engaged. Like they're almost, I bet they're almost four. They're a little older. Sometimes they wander off and it's just the parents being like, how the fuck are you getting through this or whatever. But when there are songs and when there are stories and they're kind of getting used to it. And, my son, every morning, he has his like tasks that he does at 9, and there's a Zoom meeting at 10, and it generally goes till like noon. And like, I mean, God bless his teacher, like
Yeah,
all of them. And
that's
people are
great.
really missing each other.
I
People are
know.
missing each other.
That's the tough part. But when people have said in the past, the future of education is technology and everything's going to be virtual remote learning, I've always thought that was nonsense. But now when you're saying this, I'm like, oh my God, maybe it's true.
No,
The youngest are like there.
no, no, no. It is, it is what is it? It's the exception that proves the rule. Like it's
Okay.
the extraordinary circumstance that proves the fact that like kids need to be in the same room with one another, that like they
Yeah.
like this the Zoom thing can only hold their attention for so long,
Yeah.
and they want an embodied experience, and they need to be learning in class. And I saw some really snarky shit about how like, don't worry about scheduling your kid's day because the only reason teachers do that is for managing all of those huge numbers of kids in their room. Like some super snotty, there,
Yeah.
too many kids in classes and blah blah blah. It's it's not true. Like kids need kids. They
Yeah. I
need to
mean,
be in the room with other children.
there's
Like,
also, I mean, the most recent research, the most up to date research in education all points to like the social aspect of learning as being crucial. That is the trend, but I don't want to call it a trend because that makes it sound like it's
like it's new as opposed to something we've known
right. Exactly. Like
forever.
it's new and it's going to go away.
Like
But
since
it's
Socrates.
like the new understanding that all education is being founded on now. It's group learning, constructivism,
Yeah.
social learning that gets really badly disrupted in these cases. And I really feel bad for kids with ADHD, some of whom I tutor, and I've seen even one on one when it's virtual, it's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard. It's not the same as being in the room with someone. We have a whole slew of messages from our most devoted viewer, Mr. MLS Analyst.
Yeah.
We should mention he doesn't like our take. He says the virus isn't a political expert is a bad take. It's lowering gas prices and airfare.
All right,
I
smarty
mean, there's
pants. All
truth to
right, all right,
that.
all right.
The virus is out there trying to get your vote, he adds. You know what? Virus 2020. I Between the virus and Joe Biden, I'd have to think for a little while, but I'll take it before Trump in a minute.
Anything but Trump.
Right.
Anything but Trump.
Anything but Trump. Um, the virus is making it impossible to vote en masse, which is the core plank of the GOP platform. That's actually a very good point. They should be happy about this virus because it is preventing voting from happening, which they're not for voting.
And it's killing poor people. So
Exactly.
they're always about that.
Yeah.
It's killing, but it's also killing the elderly.
Which is their core voting base. So,
That
it gives and it takes, I guess. Oh, I got a little bit of a bitter. Who's getting that check for $1,200 in the end, though? Whose pocket does it end up in? A question on behalf of those who might be getting a salary cut, or or furloughed from their jobs, and so
Yeah.
the entities they work for, who have, deep pockets, get to save money, and then we get our pittance to live off of to subsidize that.
I think one thing that you have to wonder, because I think it was really interesting. I think one of the most wonderful things that Michelle Obama did in her autobiography was saying, like, now that I've been in the rooms of power, I
Mm-hmm.
can tell you they are not smarter than you. Like,
Right.
as somebody who is an outsider who has now gotten to sit at the table with these people, it's these people are fucking stupid. And in terms of who's more stupid, these people or the virus, I mean, they're like, it's humiliate. I mean, part of it, like, if I slowed down and really absorbed things like Trump denying ventilators to states that are not kissing the ring, and sending, or if I slowed down to think about Trump going on Twitter and bragging about his Facebook rating, as like, people are dumb. Like, it's so dumb. It's so dumb. These people are so fucking dumb. It's
Yes.
it's really like, that's why I have to sort of flow through this denial, give myself tasks. I'm reading about like the history of surrealism and communism. Like, I can't follow it too closely.
Yeah. It's like you said, absolutely infuriating. And I try to carry some hope that that this incredible massive change in our lifestyles and in the whole, like, everything has ground to a halt, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's unlike anything we've ever experienced. It really does feel like the end
Yeah.
of the world.
Yeah.
And I carry some hope that this will change people's perspectives on some things, like the thing about teachers, that they people will gain a new appreciation of the work that teachers do.
Right.
You know,
Right.
look, parents, you are at home with your kids trying to educate them. You have two
Right.
kids. You have
Right.
two of them. You know, like maybe there will be an increased understanding and appreciation of that work and the
Or an
other
increased
work.
understanding and appreciation of how stupid your job is. Like,
Right.
wow, when the world grinds to a halt, no one fucking needs me.
Right. Exactly. And an increased appreciation of those low wage workers
Mm-hmm.
who we rely upon and who are out there risking their health and possibly
Yeah.
their lives to, like, bring us pizza.
Yeah.
The
Yep.
cashiers at the grocery store, the
Yeah.
delivery people, the those delivering the mail, all that stuff. I would hope, there's been some, oh, let's clap for the workers kind of thing, and that's nice. But does it translate into some kind of actual change in the culture, which could lead to change in
I
policy?
mean, so one thing I've been doing, and you guys should all go follow me on Instagram,
Oh, for
because
sure.
the one thing that I've been doing, that's just a little task. Like, there isn't much, like, deep meaning or even so much labor in it. But every day I post a little bit from the plague archives.
The
Just a
plague
little
archives.
something, a little like image of like plague spreaders being burned in the
Oh, I've seen
1400s,
those posts. They're
or
really fascinating.
like a little bit of like kids in New York
There's my phone.
in the 1832 cholera epidemic, the Brooklyn Eagle, which was the local paper,
Hmm.
publishing this paragraph about little kids playing cholera in the streets, or like like a little flu poster from Canada from 1918 or whatever.
Right.
And so it's
I love shit
in
like that.
some I I love it. And there are things where all of a sudden these things I realize, like, oh my God, All of a Kind Family, those children's books about like the Jewish girls growing up, and like there's that section about polio when there's the polio epidemic
Oh yeah.
in more All of a Kind Family. So all of a sudden it's like I'm going through all my books and I'm pulling these things out, and it's like unprecedented but also not so much.
That's the
And
thing. It's not
one
unprecedented.
not at all. And one of the things, I've been reading Caliban and the Witch, which
Oh,
is this amazing book about the emergence of capitalism or proto-capitalism in the Middle Ages, and how it's connected to a very specific kind of misogyny and the end of the commons and all of this stuff. And so much of what would trigger the moment that she's describing was the plague, because so many people died in the Black Death that all of a sudden labor had some bargaining power,
right.
and rich people had to actually like spend more for their like labor, and they didn't like that, so they instituted policies to try to make women breed more children so they had more workers. And it's like, oh, like there I definitely, history I find very comforting.
Yeah.
Even with the horrors of it, history is very comforting for me right now.
Oh, that I absolutely agree with. And I think we should talk about it. Sorry, I'm trying to make myself another cocktail, so I'm like reaching everywhere. What?
10-minute stream?
Yes, 10-minute stream. How long have we been going? 45 minutes? I told you, Maya. I told you we were not going to do 10
You acted
minutes.
like it's somehow my fault. Hey,
Helen Keller, Brooklyn Eagle.
Matt says Google Helen Keller Brooklyn Eagle. While you're doing that, I'll try to remember what I was about to say. Oh, which is we should get into all of this stuff when we do our episode, our podcast episode
Yes.
about contagion and epidemics in
yes,
the popular imaginary.
yes,
And
yes.
there's a lot there. Like I want to talk about Camus' The Plague and this association between the plague and if not socialism per se, then community connection,
Right.
people looking
Right.
out for each other.
Right, but also in this moment, people trying to destroy the commons. Like they're trying to use this as the moment to finally get rid of the U.S. postal system. Like this is
Right.
This is, it's a moment of transition, and you see it can
Well,
go.
that goes to was it Naomi Klein who wrote the book about disaster shock doctrine. She wrote Shock Doctrine, which was about like how people capitalizing on disasters to forward that sort of agenda, small government agenda, pro-business agenda, like after Katrina in New Orleans is like a bonanza for not private schools, but charter schools that are run by private companies,
right,
and so forth. And
so what we're saying to people, guys, is get ready to buy property in Florida. Get ready.
Well, there's going to be a lot available.
There's going to be a lot available very soon. Just that's all we're saying. Now, one thing, and then I know that we both have to go, but one thing.
Okay.
Is this the moment where we say something about Tiger King? Is this the moment?
I think that's a different episode. I think we're going to have to do. What episode are you on of Tiger King?
Okay, we've only watched the first 3. We're watching it slowly.
Episode 3 to me was like blows everything open, and then just keep going.
Okay, but can I just say one thing about episode 3? Okay, spoiler alert, guys.
Okay,
for the
spoiler
0
alert.
of you
Turn
who
off
are
your
listening,
sound if you haven't
turn off
watched
your
Tiger
sound,
King.
whatever.
Who's viewing us anyway? Well,
Nobody is.
People will watch after the fact.
Okay. First of all, clearly, Carol's first husband was a douchebag of monstrous proportions and absolutely engineered his own death, or he was involved in some freaky shit involving drugs, involving something. I do not think she killed him, but also he seemed like the kind of person who maybe deserved to die a little.
Yeah, I'm not sure if she killed him. I think she might have, but if she did, I think that's great and I applaud her.
I support it. I
Yeah, I
support it.
support it as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Matt, we can't talk to each other and read your novel that you're chatting to us in the chat. But viewers who later watch this will be able to read all of Matt's comments in the chat. So thank you for adding another dimension of entertainment. Thank you, Maya, for...
Thank you for figuring out the technical, etc.
Yeah, it all had to do with the headset. Apparently, using the other mic was fucking everything up. But
no,
I'm not kidding. I just couldn't use the Yeti mic. It made it so we couldn't hear you. And so this device works well, so fine. It's fine.
Well, also, I figured out the dongle thingy fufa to connect Ethernet directly to my laptop, so I know my connection is probably better too.
That's
probably
that's
helps.
good. Yeah. Wasn't that interesting little bit of insight into our technical process?
Just a little inside ball, guys. You kind of love it.
We are going to get to that episode on disease and contagion. And I swear it's going to be a 3-parter. We have too much.
Look, we're not going anywhere for a while.
And we will be back with some, I think, shorter and more concise live.
And we might even do a little Instagram live in.
Yeah, we're going to do some Instagram live too. So follow us on Instagram. We're at Sauce Podcast on Instagram, of course.
And then also follow me so you can have your plague of the day.
Yeah.
At Maya Garance. It's really delightful.
At Maya Garance. Her Instagram is fascinating, educational, entertaining,
and grotesque. And grotesque.
And of course, you can find me, Rebecca, as at Gynostar on the Twitter and the Instagram and all that stuff. And if you're not watching this via our Patreon, you should visit it, patreon.com/saucepodcast, where we're going to be posting more bonus material that is exclusively for patrons. So
that's right. So I have really good news for all of our patrons. There was a bonus episode that was stuck on my computer in Charlotte, North Carolina that I was able to drag over to my computer here in Los Angeles. So you guys are getting a bonus episode really soon about Kobe Bryant, who died like 27 years ago.
That was in the 1900s, right? That's cool. All right. Yeah, we had a whole conversation about that. It was just too long to keep in that episode from that time. The time before. The before time.
The before time.
The way back time.
The way back time.
All right. Thank you, anyone who is watching or has watched. Thank you, endless analyst Matthew Doyle, for your participation. And
we will see you guys very soon and hear you guys very soon. And let us know what plague-related things you'd like us to chat about.
Yeah. Adios, amoebas.